robots up, explorer missions. We'll talk about some of them in a panel later today to try to get information. And when those robots started sending back their findings, it felt like we were there. It was first-hand experience vicariously. That's what we try to do at CosmoQuest. We try to give you that vicarious experience of what it's like to be doing the science, the excitement of seeing what's being discovered and what it means, and the future of science in space and for the human species. Looks like here this person might be doing some research notes on the coal that they've unearthed. Again, if there is coal on Mars, then that would give a sign of life. Someone here is doing some chemistry. They're probably doing some research notes as well. Science takes a lot of writing. There are a lot of papers published. Those papers go into journals, but unless you're a pretty wealthy person or live near a university library, you won't see those articles. And unless you're educated in that particular field, you might not even understand the articles. CosmoQuest tries to bridge that gap. We read those articles, we talk to those scientists, and bring that information to you in podcasts, in articles that we share with you, so that you can know what science is happening in space and from Earth, where we're doing a lot of the research about space. And the rocket launches that happen, the technology that's going to put people into space. This looks like it's some sort of water reservoir. We'll have to take water with us to Mars unless we can find a good source of oxygen and hydrogen up there, or maybe some subsurface ice. Maybe there's some on Mars that we haven't found yet. But we'll need water if we're going to be on Mars, because water is essential for life. And just as water is essential for life, funds are essential for science outreach. If you have funds that you could share with us, please consider sharing. We would love to be able to continue our science outreach for more months and years to come. And the more funding we have, the more of that outreach in many different ways we can do. As I said earlier, we're hoping to get $10,000 this weekend. But if we can get more, then we have plans for what we can do to bring back some things that had to be cut from the budget. I see by the clock there that we're at about time. I'm going to turn it over to Pamela, I guess. Are you going to tell us a little bit more about what we're doing this weekend?
Hello, and we are live. Our next session. Oh my, I've lost track of what number this is.
Hour 18.
We are in hour 18. During this session, we are going to be celebrating Bennu and all that we accomplished. Coming up next, we're going to be joined by On the Diagonal to talk about science fiction and how it had to radically change as we've sent missions out into the solar system and changed what we know about, well, our world and so many others. But we couldn't be here to celebrate Bennu without bringing on one of our heroes. And Annie, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce tonight's hero.
Hello. First of all, click unmute. Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, good. I can hear you. That was mostly to make sure that we had a working audio.
Okay.
So, Mike, hi.
There's only 3 of us, or 2 of us.
There is only 3 of us, yeah.
Oh, 2 of us, because you're considered one.
Well, wait, did Pamela mark any better?
I did.
So no, it's 3. Pamela mapped 2.
I marked 20-something images.
No, my screen says 2 participants.
Oh, yeah. Pamela and I together are 1, and then you're the other one. Yeah.
Are there other people on besides us?
No,
not
it's
this
just
session.
us.
So we did a session this morning for folks that live in UTC plus hours. This evening is for folks in UTC minus hours. And since we're that magical weekend between Halloween and people panicking about Thanksgiving, it was hard to get a hold of folks. And we're really grateful that you were able to join us, Mike.
Yes.
I have to get up early, run, and then I have 3 friends running it. I'm not going to run New York City Marathon this year for the first time in a billion years. I'm really drifting in and out of depressions because my wife stepped 2.5 years ago. But I have 3 friends running, and I have to get to Central Park so I can see them, cheer them as they run by.
Oh, that's
Anyway,
amazing.
I can't believe because there's so many of us mapping this damn thing.
It was nearly 4,000 people for 92 days, marked 14 million rocks, boulders, and craters in Bennu images. We weren't expecting this. The wild thing was we started discussions on creating the Bennu Mappers project back in 2013. Hannah Thackeray, a member of our community who some of you may have known from the Astronomy Cast Eclipse trip back in 2017, she got into the University of Arizona for graduate school and was part of the OSIRIS-REx team. And she reached out saying that they had this problem where all the images from the mission were going to be coming back about the same time that finals were starting and students were leaving for the semester. And so we needed to find a way to take all these images that OSIRIS-REx was going to send back of Bennu and map them out to find a good place for the mission to reach out and grab a sample to bring it back home. Now, the thing was, prior to the mission getting there, the only images that we had of Bennu, it just looked like this moving point of light against a field of stars. And so we assumed that it would look like other small asteroids that size. We assumed it would look like Itokawa, which is this beautiful cashew of an asteroid, long and slightly curved, and it had some boulder fields. It had vast, smooth, dusty plains. And when we were writing all of the software, we wrote our tutorials, we planned how long it would take, all based on these beautiful Itokawa images. And so we thought, like, maybe an image might have 1 or 2 small, beautifully, perfectly defined craters with this beautiful rim on dust. We thought there might be maybe a dozen rocks, maybe 1 or 2 boulders. And when we first, on New Year's 2019, saw Bennu, which is a pile of rubble, not shaped like a cashew with vast, pristine, dusty plains, panic ensued. We'd initially thought it would take about 2 minutes per image to mark everything in each image. Mike, you were the fastest of all of our mappers.
That's what I worried about.
So how long did it take you per image?
I don't even know. I would just sit down and do it. But I was always worried I was missing something because I seemed to be so much faster than everyone. And I had grave doubts that I was doing anything. Like maybe I was missing everything was on, to be honest.
No.
I just sat down. I'm also, retired.
Yeah.
So I could sit there. And my wife was encouraging me because we were taking care of my mother-in-law who had dementia. And I would sit in the room with her. And so she was occupied because I was sitting here. So my wife was happy that I was doing that.
Yeah,
I'm just, it's like everything else. I mean, you wonder how many different types of asteroids are still out there.
Yeah.
How many are going to show up and they're going to be pure water, frozen water and hydrogen type of thing with maybe 2 rocks in it. And there's a big, ice thing floating around. We're going to be shocked. I mean,
that would sure make it easier, huh?
Yeah.
yes. But have they been able to open it? I remember reading they were having difficulty. They did open it finally.
Yes.
Okay. That I know they're having difficulty. It didn't open like they thought it was going to. And that I worried about, that we're never going to see the inside.
So the problem that they ran into is they basically had to force the spacecraft to close the safety hatch over the sample container. And I mean, we've all at one point or another shoved the lid on something that didn't want to close. And they got the entire thing into the special sample retrieval enclosure where completely clean, completely pristine, nitrogen atmosphere. They're working with gloves through the side of the container with specific allowed equipment. And they couldn't pry open all of the parts. They were eventually able to do it, but I mean, your nice, delicate little scientific tools weren't designed to force something open after it had been forced closed against its will. So it took a bit of trying, but we've all been there. We've just never been there with a spacecraft before. So how did you find our project?
What do you mean? I stumbled. I read. I think I was doing Moon at some point. I keep going back.
Moon
Right now,
mappers.
I'm right now trying to finish my house.
Oh,
We've done our house 16 times, but now finally my mother-in-law is out. So I'm now finishing what, if my wife was alive, what we wanted to do.
yeah.
So I'm running around. That's why I haven't really done much. I still have to buy furniture, buying some furniture. We've only been here 50 years. Believe me, we bought this house with $64,000. You can't believe what it's worth now. But we bought it in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I remember you kind of describing to me where you lived. And I was like, and I had assumed that you had rented, right? Because, and then you're like, no, I own. I was like, what? But now that you say you've owned it for 50 years, I'm like, okay, now I'm tracking. Now I understand.
Well, this is also, when we moved here, my wife's half Italian. I found out later, one of my great grandfathers was Italian, but this was Italian neighbor. This was the Gallo neighborhood. I know people have broken noses. That's what I call them, broken noses.
Oh.
But it was absolutely had no crime. And my wife lived, I worked nights. I worked at the New York Times for a while. So I was working nights for years. So this is a perfect neighborhood. Plus I was born in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I was only like 4 miles away where I was born. My father was born in Greenpoint, which is another part of Brooklyn. My mother in East New York. Her father was born in this neighborhood called Vinegar Hill. His mother and father were born in Vinegar Hill. Brooklyn, I go back a long way. Though I actually grew up in Long Island. As you can tell when I said Long Island. And I went to high school with Trump. I don't know if I ever came out. I was there in scholarship.
Oh, jeez.
No, I swear, every time we talk, I learn something new, and
I never beat him up, and it really pisses me off because
Anyway.
I wrestled. I weighed 121 pounds in high school.
Oh,
I could beat him up with one hand. I'm so pissed off that I could make fun of him saying, this 121, 5'5" guy came and beat you up, you son of a. He had terrible grades. There's one time he gave donation to the high school. My father went to debt to send us to. My father was an orphan. He graduated high school on a destroyer in the middle of the Pacific.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm the 4th high school graduate and the 1st college graduate in my family. So my father's big thing was to get his kids, his 2 sons and daughter, into the best school he could afford, and he was in debt his whole life, sending us to schools. Anyway, I'm babbling on.
No,
I love it. I love it. We just
want to be you when we grow up.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you know.
One of these days,
I was supposed to be a physics math major in Cornell, and I discovered alcohol in women. I went to an all-boys school. Suddenly there was, and I weighed 127-pound wrestler. I was walking around. I was dating graduate students. Most
Mike?
freshman boys can't date it. I was dating graduate students.
Mike,
So I flunked out very fast. So you don't want to.
I
want
now
to be you.
need.
I am pissed off. You both got PhDs, and
No,
I
I
don't
have
have.
a
I don't have a PhD. I only have a bachelor's degree.
She just works.
It
with the
just
PhD.
took me so long to finish because I started. Well,
You
not
were in
that
the
many
military.
times.
Well, I also got drafted in the middle of my education.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll do it. No,
Then I
no.
worked at Times. I worked at the New York Times. My godmother was a secretary there, and I started doing Columbia, and I needed during the day, and I needed a job at night. So she got me a job in the newsroom, and that's why I stayed. I stayed at the Times 18 years until I went
That's
to Condé Nast.
amazing.
I was very lucky in my career. I was very lucky at college. I stumbled into computers, but
Some of us just stumble through life, and that's okay.
I,
And I now need to convince favorite human to come with me to go visit you because I feel like the three of us would have a heck of a time.
Yeah, I agree. I want the
but
stories.
then
from
I
that.
thought it was goofy. I keep meaning to go back. I think I once in a while did the moon. Be honest with you, Mars. There's nothing there.
No.
No, Mars is
I,
boring. The
I
Mars
went
mapper
tried
was
through
boring.
Mars because I love watching the rovers and helicopters send back pictures of the Mars. It's like to me, it's like holy shit, this is Mars. But it's not fun to map. The moon's good, but I don't have the time to do the moon because I need probably within 3 months the house will be 99% done. I'm basically doing furniture now, which is my weakness. Actually, right. Getting things repaired is easy. I can get people in to do it, but actually figuring out what things are supposed to look like, it's like, I'm not good at that.
I run into decision making problems. We bought our house in 2006, and when we bought it, we looked at the stove and said that's getting replaced first.
Lol. It just got replaced within the last
2 weeks.
Has it really only been 2 weeks?
Yes. So we lived with that oven that had only 2 working burners, and the oven was like within plus or minus 100 degrees of what you thought it was. We lived with that for 17 years because we couldn't decide on a new oven until we had to decide on a new oven. And
What'd
then
you
we just
do?
bought what was cheapest.
Well, the first thing we had to replace all the windows because you could actually get a breeze through them.
Yeah, same.
Then we built the fireplaces, which was in between. Sounds very romantic. They were gas burners. They're very, except for that, you turn the fire in, and you have a glass of wine, and you're not having romance. You're both fast asleep in front of the damn fireplace for 3 minutes. So that, and then you have to wake up and clean it out because you have to make sure it's out. So, but they look cute.
They do.
And then we started from there. But we lived there the whole time. We basically redid the whole house and lived through all the construction and dust and garbage.
What I love,
How many images did you two do?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I know I did way more than I thought I ever would. I know you ran out of images at least once. If
Can't
not,
remember.
at least, like, you just kept running out of images, I think. And I was always like, how is Mike out of images again? Like, I didn't know it was possible to run out of images.
oh yeah,
I
there
can't.
were
Well,
3 of you that
Pamela
did
did
this.
it. Pamela did something. Well, I signed on with different logons.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it was. Yeah,
Right.
you created
And then
new
I started.
accounts.
Well, basically, you needed 2 or 3. And I'm not sure how that's cheating. Maybe it was cheating. I
wasn't.
would do some of the images again a second time, I think, or something. I don't know.
So one of the research projects that I still have, and the project problem is it's an unfunded research project I'm looking forward to doing after the success of fundraisers like this one. So one of the things that we want to do is go back and look at your data and the data from the other 2 individuals that did the same images more than once. And there's also a handful of people that we just like reset the randomization on them, so they ended up getting some of the same images more than once. And we want to see how the first time someone did the image versus the second or third time they did it, how that changes. So we want,
Craters.
yeah,
I kept thinking I was going to see moon craters. And
yeah,
so I can't remember, then you and I had a conversation about something or other, and suddenly I realized if I see a circle of
yeah,
rocks, the chances are it was cratered. And then I started seeing craters. Before that, I kept looking for, this
Yeah, the
crater,
little ones,
same.
like
the
the
little ones,
moon.
yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things that just blew my mind about this object is it it was literally a gravel field. And so just like if an explosion goes off, a very small someone threw fireworks in explosion goes off in a gravel field, it's just going to create a divot with maybe smaller rocks in it that had a really bad day. And with Bennu, the craters are just squished parts of all the other rocks where the rocks are a little bit smaller and squished down into a circle.
Right.
And it's not something we've seen anywhere else except in like gravel fields on Earth. And this world just messed with our minds. And at the end of the day, though, you were one of the 64 people that helped map out Nightingale Crater, which is where they eventually took the sample. Do you remember learning that?
Yes, I know. Well, I guess I figured I was going to probably end up mapping wherever they
Yeah,
landed because
it's
I
true.
had mapped so much anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
I also thought I'd see much more ice, water ice of some type, or hydrogen ice, or whatever free, whatever nitrogen ice, some type of ice. And
Yeah.
I don't, I think I saw it a couple of times, but not as much as I thought I was going to see.
So there were a
I also
few
don't know anything about anything.
so there were a few very bright, highly reflective little rocks in
Yeah,
there.
what were those? Did we ever find out?
Ices and quartz, depending on which one. So you did see ices. They were just tiny,
Okay,
tiny.
I think I think I asked about that once. I can't remember. Long time. See, I didn't get that frustrated with it. To be honest with you, I
No,
I
no,
was.
you.
I guess if I had seen other asteroids and then been over, but I knew you kept saying it was different from other ones. But to me, this is what we would do.
I I
So I
think
didn't.
I think one of the things that got to people is they'd sit down, they'd turn on a TV show and start mapping, figuring they'd map during the duration of a single TV show. And unless it was a really long show, they weren't going to make it through that many images. And so, this habit a lot of people had of let's turn on an episode of Star Trek and map a planet because Brave New Worlds are cool to explore, just didn't work out. And it was like, okay, I'm apparently going to watch the entire season of every show ever done by Star Trek, and there's still going to be Bennu images left to do. And that just changed how people had to interact with the data. But you and some of the others were in this other headspace where you were keeping your mother-in-law company and hanging out with us on the internet. Other folks were watching Twitch streams which do never end.
Yeah, because I the only time I mapped, I was on stream. That was it. So every image I mapped was done on stream.
Every image I mapped was to make sure that I hadn't introduced a bug into the software because we had to keep updating it to deal with Bennu not being as expected. We did not build the software expecting that we'd have 14 million lines in our database. So we had to like increase the size of the hard drives as we went. We had to change how it was transferring data back to the team at the University of Arizona. And I know I marked more than 20 images because I was happy. And I know I didn't mark 30 images because I didn't get to that point of happiness. But every image I mapped represented us having to update the software because Bennu refused to conform to expectations, which is awesome and terrible, both at the same time.
Well, Bennu's software can be used on different. You could get a much smoother one and still use Bennu now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess the question is, since you don't have ice down for Bennu, if I can remember right, if you suddenly brought up an ice there, you'd have to figure
Just
out how
add
to
one
malt
more
ice.
button. And this, you're bringing up a really good point. So right now, myself, Keeper of Maps, DPI, the Real Fake Admin, my friend Llewellyn Falco, we are working on updating the mapping software to make it more robust to exploring worlds that are unlike anything we've ever seen. Because with Bennu mappers, we went in with expectations. We were like, this thing is going to look like Itokawa. And what we need to actually figure out how to do is write software that is robust to the unexpected, that is able to have the flexibility that if you find a crater that is 80% off the edge of your field, you can still map that sucker. And so we have a sub-award from a project at Southwest Research Institute where we are going to be doing a new moon project in the future. We're working on revising the software now. And we're bringing in the latest in technology. We wrote the original CosmoQuest software back in 2011. We upgraded everything in 2015, 2016. And technology just keeps changing. And we're working to change with it. So stay tuned, it's coming.
What language you write? You write in C++?
No, we're actually using a C-based language though. We're using PHP. It's a language that a lot of people really love to hate, but it's extremely fast and powerful for web applications. A lot of people like to write in Python, and Python's really a jack of all trades kind of software language that it can be anything to anyone, just not very effectively. And with PHP, we can take on these problems that use large databases, that require complex calculations. And so PHP, it's C-based in terms of its syntax. If you know how to program in C or C++, it feels very, very familiar. C was my favorite language. I learned it in C++ and Perl, which I do not like, in university. And PHP is now my happy place, although I can go into the world of Python when forced. So, yeah, that's
No,
where we are.
no language I learned is used anywhere anymore.
Fortran?
Pascal, C, Macro 11, DEC 20.
C is still used in
Lisp.
supercomputers.
Does anyone use Lisp?
Yes.
I had to learn Lisp. I can't even remember. I did a lot of Pascal. It was a very big language at Columbia at the time. Don't ask me why. I don't even remember. I doubt I could write a single line in any of this crap at this point, to be honest.
Pascal.
I can debug in a sense. I can debug in a sense is that you could give me stuff and I would throw things at it to see if I can bust it so you could correct it. But I couldn't write code at all. I don't even pretend to write code.
Well, this is the thing. The technology is constantly changing.
Right.
And at a certain point, you ionize into management. And if you're lucky, you're still able to hang out and do a little bit of the seeing what the cool innovations are producing. I'm lucky that I get to stay up to date because I have students to work with and friends who are software trainers that are willing to train me. But most of us aren't that lucky, and once you go into management, you escape into the significantly harder land of trying to get people to perform their best instead of getting computers to perform their best. Computers are easier to get to do things.
I was a good manager.
That's a super important set of skills.
What I see managers do is they get upset many times when their subordinates get better at their job than they could be.
Oh, no, I'm the
Managers feel
opposite.
guilty. All right, I'm saying that's
Yeah.
stupid. They're doing it every day of the week, 8 hours, 7 hours a day, and two, you should be proud.
Yeah.
They're your employee. You should be proud that someone working for you is doing great. You helped them. They're now doing it. I don't understand. I've seen people freak out that someone's working for them and can do something better than them. It's like,
Well, then why did they hire them? I mean, so
well,
here's,
sometimes they train them. Like I trained a bunch
yeah.
of people on stuff, and I was so proud that they started soon after I trained them. This is on like Quark Express. I don't know what you know what Quark Express is. A
Oh, I
million years.
remember it. Yeah.
And I had people that were paste up, literally using type, put it through a wax and paste it on. And suddenly I trained them first, not people that set type on ATEX machines, them, so they know they had a job. And I watched them learn, and they got better than me like a year later. I was so proud of them. I said, this is great. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And then I have no people like freak out, and I don't understand it.
I think that's the difference between a boss and a leader. Is a leader is someone who wants to take their people and grow them up to outgrow the positions they're in. And a boss is someone who wants to maintain the status quo and just keep the ship moving smoothly. And it's a lot harder to be a leader because if you're good at your job, people keep succeeding, people keep growing, people keep moving on to new and amazing opportunities, and you have to hire new people in and start over. And that's exciting and amazing and a whole lot harder.
Now, a Bennu question. How was
Yeah.
Bennu chosen? How did they come up and choose Bennu as opposed to 75 million other asteroids?
It's orbit. It sometimes just comes down to what
Came close enough.
object. It has an orbit that crosses Earth's, and this meant that we could have a spacecraft like OSIRIS-REx not need a whole lot of propulsion to be able to first slow down and fall into orbit around Bennu, or more likely just kind of maneuver as it and Bennu went around the sun. It mostly orbited. And then it had to be able to get back to Earth. And so...
Not the spacecraft, just the return capsule.
Well, the spacecraft went past Earth.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Okay.
OSIRIS-REx itself had to leave Bennu, switch orbits, and eventually fly. It ended up flying between Earth and the Moon and flung the capsule at us with sufficient accuracy to hit a specific region in Utah. And that just completely blows my mind, their ability to do things like that. And so Bennu had an orbit that, given when they thought the spacecraft would be ready for launch, they knew if they launched in this window, it would be easy to get to and easy to get home. And that's all we needed. It's sort of like on November 1st, the Lucy mission imaged this little asteroid called Dinkamesh. Everyone's calling it Dinky because that's easier to pronounce. And it was selected of all the unnamed, just mapped positions of asteroids because it was the closest to where the mission was gonna need to fly to hit all of its orbital destinations. And so they were like, okay, we don't need to fire our thrusters or change our course all that much to go visit this particular asteroid. They picked it, they named it, and then they saw it. And sometimes that's what it takes, just being in the right place at the right time.
Yes, I actually personally think it's great that everyone got caught off guard by it. That's what I like.
Yeah.
I mean, we just learned so much by this thing not being what we expected. It's just
Right.
like really. And so, how many other asteroids are going to be totally what we don't think they are?
Yeah.
and may give us some idea of how everything's formed. More,
And this
There's at least one other asteroid that I keep mistaking for Bennu.
Ryugu.
Is it Ryugu?
Yeah.
I don't know, because it looks like it has that same kind of outliney shape. That's Bennu. That's
This
not
is
Ryugu.
Bennu. And Ryugu and Bennu look the same without my glasses on.
Yeah, they're almost like twins. So I always have to be like, is this Bennu or is this the other one?
Yeah, this one's Bennu. Ryugu is a bit bigger. It's about 700 meters across, if I remember correctly. And
When did we visit that one, or have we?
it was visited, I think we reached it the year before we got to Bennu. So JAXA reached Ryugu with the Hayabusa 2 mission.
Oh, that's right. They dropped a thing onto it,
Uh-huh.
and we have to make sure we don't call it an anti-tank round, but it's an anti-tank round.
It's true.
right,
They dropped an impactor onto it.
right. They wanted to see what happened.
Yeah.
And they also flung wind-up robots that flitted around and all sorts of different things. Basically, if they could fit it on their spacecraft and throw it at the surface of Ryugu, JAXA did. And this caused some wonderful memes where, so JAXA got to Ryugu first, and then about a year later, and I am working off of memory for the timeline on this, so please check your favorite source before you quote me. And then OSIRIS-REx reached Bennu, and one of the first things that was discovered was these particles, pebbles, getting flung from the surface of Bennu. Bennu was literally throwing rocks at OSIRIS-REx, and the running joke was, well, Bennu saw what we did to Ryugu with that anti-tank weapon and everything else, and it decided to make the first move. And it just turned out that the constant heating and cooling the surface experienced as it rotated
Right.
would cause things to expand and contract, release volatiles, and the spin was high enough that all of these things came together, that sometimes these little pieces of rock would jet propel themselves off the surface and end up falling back down to the world at a different point. Who knew that was even a thing? None of us expected it. The universe is wildly more inventive in what is out there thanks strictly to physics than we are creative as human beings trying to figure out what the physics can possibly do.
So go back to Bennu, you'd have to end up remapping it again because it's all been
Probably.
getting
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, since the spacecraft essentially punched a hole in it. Yeah, I imagine a lot has changed. And you would have more rocks to mark, which makes you happy.
But it's not. It didn't punch that big a hole.
No. Well, I mean, it's a ball pit.
When will we get an idea what's the stuff is made of?
So
When do they actually?
So we're already
start?
starting to get preliminary information. They've found carbonates. They have found water. The stuff of life is in the stuff of Bennu. So, I mean, Bennu isn't exactly going to be supporting life. It's a ball pit of gravel that just contains the right ingredients. It's like throwing everything you need for a pie onto your counter and leaving it there. It's not going to spontaneously form a pie.
But sometimes if it's just the right thing and you leave it in just the right spot, maybe it'll bake and become a pie.
No.
Got to become in the right proportion. Well,
I just really want pie.
I'm just hoping. I hope we find life on Mars, and I hope, if nothing else, the DNA spirals a different direction. Some way we know it ain't related to us. And
So one of the questions that came up earlier today, when we were talking about second careers in space science, was those of us who are starting to feel senior in our field. I have the title of senior scientist. You start reaching the point of, well, fuck, Europa Clipper doesn't even launch until 2035. And I want to know its results now. Will I get those results while I'm still
No, I am one of the kids that watched Vanguard blow up on this thing. I am totally amazed that we don't have a real 2001 satellite up there, and that we don't have a base on the moon, and we haven't basically landed on Mars already.
yeah.
In my 30s, I thought this would be where we'd be at this point. It's, it seems like
Yeah.
the competition with Russia was the only reason we went to space.
Well, now China's trying to go to the moon, and it's a race to see which of us gets back again faster.
And this is what we need.
No.
I mean,
That's
it's
what
stupid.
we have.
And I understand people say, well, we could be spending it on getting rid of ghettos and stuff. Well, we have enough money in the world. We get rid of ghettos and we could actually feed people if we really wanted to and do this. We don't do it because we're greedy, and a couple of greedy people don't want to give up their extra money to feed people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very left wing. In case you haven't noticed, I'm fairly left wing.
Meanwhile, here I am in my 30s going like we're not going to send people to Mars in my lifetime. Like I really don't think I'm such a pessimist about that.
So this is the one thing I feel like the billionaires are good for.
They are good for it.
Is like the original cause for exploring the new world was royalty wanting
Spices.
more riches, wanting a faster way to get spices, wanting the gold of the Incan Empire that didn't exist the way they thought it did. And so the idea is, if these billionaires actually want to, they have the resources to go fossil hunting on Mars. And I want something or someone to go fossil hunting on Mars. Like that's where I'm at in life, is in my lifetime, fossil hunters on the red planet, please and thank you.
What they're going to do is look for diamonds, gold, and they're going to ignore everything else, I think.
I'm going to agree with you.
Maybe if they discovered coal and get oil on Mars.
Yeah, because
then you'd have to have a whole different. I think we'd be seeing, if they had that, you'd be seeing life on Mars now, right there, big enough.
And if they found coal and oil, that means there was life.
And they're going to find fossils, because you sometimes find a lot of fossils in with coal. So.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is probably micros, and that's a hard thing to make fossil. I mean, we're still debating some of the stuff they find in Australia, I think, that whether it really was life and, bacteria or not.
Right.
I happen to think it's probably going to end up being more complex than they think, a little bit bigger, but still small. That's me being optimistic, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not very scientific. Optimistic, because I want life on Mars.
It'd be nice to know that we're not alone.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the things that really gets me that you've hit upon is we keep finding the stuff of life. Bennu has the ingredients. Mars has the ingredients. Europa has the ingredients. Enceladus has the ingredients. And what we don't know is how likely are the ingredients going to spontaneously form life. We understand that the probability of having the ingredients for pie spontaneously forming a beautiful cherry pie with no lemon juice that I'm not allergic to.
I don't even want it to be a fully formed perfect cherry pie. I just want like a little bit of crust and, some cherries and maybe a hunk like misshapen of sugar. Like that's pie to me.
But we don't know how likely it is for this to happen. And if we are able to find microbial life or fossils of life on Mars and one or two other worlds, it's going to mean that life forms easily. And if life forms easily, even if complex life is extremely rarely achieved, if life is easy, we have so many chances in this universe. We just don't know how easy it is to form life. And that is so annoying not to know.
Well, we only float, basically humans have not been around that long.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. So it's not, it's not unusual. We only know about DNA very briefly.
Yeah. But I want to know now.
I know, me too. I'm 78. I thought I'd know before already by now.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have a base on Mars doing stuff.
So on the diagonal is asking, can life exist with some other chemistry than Earth-type life? And we don't know. One of the questions that I've seen come up over and over is, can you simply basically take a step to the, I don't remember if it's
a
left
step
or
down
right.
because we, like, my OChem professor talked about this a lot.
Thank you.
So there's something special about carbon and the way it forms bonds, and the periodic table of elements is structured in such a specific way, not getting into the specifics. But if you go one down from carbon, it's silicon, which can also, if I recall correctly, make those 4 bonds.
Yes.
So, a lot of, we say carbon-based, carbon's in, like, everything. And carbon likes to make friends with other carbons and hydrogens and oxygens, and so the question is and nitrogen too. So the question is like, will silicone make some of those same bonds? And the answer is yes, but we don't know, like, the specifics. Like, we haven't seen silicone based DNA because all of the bases, there's carbon in all of those bases, but, like, how would that look different? And there's just enough difference, even though they both like to make 4 bonds, there's just enough difference between carbon and silicon that it may not work.
And there's also the issue of how common they are.
Right.
Carbon, oxygen, the
hydrogen.
Yeah, the phosphate that's used in the adenotriphosphate cycle.
It's just phosphate.
What did I say?
You said the phosphate. I'm like, it's just.
But it's the phosphate in the molecule.
Yeah.
Anyways, grammar, it no longer exists.
One of us was really into chemistry.
I was not. So the question becomes, where are the probabilities? What is possible? How many chances? And in the fullness of space and time, there's so much possibility. But sadly, right now, instead of being able to explore what's actually happening on Mars, we're going to have to settle for exploring what is actually happening in Mars Craft, our Minecraft Mars server for this weekend. Before we go, do you have any parting words to share with all of us, Mike?
Okay.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so
much. I don't know if I can make... Earlier I was able to make the Zoom just fill up with hearts by doing the heart thing with my hand. But thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoy getting to chat with you. Really do enjoy getting to chat with you.
I'm going to go to bed. I got to get up in 6 hours.
Oh, geez.
All right.
And then I have to go back and I shower, go to sleep. And then I got to get out, have a breakfast, go out the door. I have 3 friends I want to photograph in the marathon since I'm not running.
Have a fantastic day, and I hope you enjoy all of that.
All right. See you later, Mike.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hello. We're going to take a look at Minecraft in just a moment.